Greetings, everybody out there in YouTube land. I wanted to take a moment to think about why I've decided to archive my own personal versions of rock and pop songs and put them on YouTube after all these years. I've been a musician, obviously non-professional, not a working musician, not making money from music, but I've been a musician playing instruments, well, since I was a kid, getting into piano and guitar, taking lessons. As I've mentioned in previous, discussions on my Beatles project, it was the Beatles who kind of got me started, who really inspired me to pick up the guitar or learn to play piano to try to, play their songs. And after nearly 50 years of playing music, I feel like, I have some of their songs down now. And when I started this project, putting stuff on YouTube late last year, I decided that I was going to record all of the Beatles songs. And as I explained in a couple of previous videos that I made, I knew enough of the Beatles songs that I felt like I could do this task. There were a lot that I didn't know, a lot that I had to kind of learn on the spot, but I had quite a few of them down. And of course, I know all the Beatles songs by heart, at least in my ears, from playing Beatles songs, Beatles records since I was a kid. So, if there's any group that I know extremely well and know all the kind of nuances of their songs, it's the Beatles. I since decided that I was going to do something similar with the Rolling Stones, who I don't know as well as the Beatles. I've certainly heard, all their hit songs since I was a kid, and I know those pretty well. And I've played quite a few Rolling Stones songs in the past. But I think the Rolling Stones will be much more of a journey, much more of an adventure for me, learning songs that in some cases, I've never heard before. I do think that if there's any other band that comes close to the Beatles in terms of their overall achievement as songwriters, as performers, it's the Rolling Stones. There are a lot of similarities, even though I think the Rolling Stones is basically a harder blues band with a more aggressive sound than the Beatles. But they have a wide range of music, wide range of sounds. So it's really a joy to relearn, or in some cases, learn new songs by the Rolling Stones. I've also decided to put up songs by Bob Dylan. I've been playing Bob Dylan songs for a long time now, and over the past couple of years, I've tried to memorize a few dozen of his songs. So I'll be putting those up and trying to learn more Bob Dylan songs. I'm not sure how far I'm going to get with either the Rolling Stones or Bob Dylan, whether I'll be able to cover their entire output of songs as I did with the Beatles. But we'll see. But I'm going to try to keep up with this project over the next year or so, and we'll see how far I get. I also have a lot of other songs that I've covered over the years that I'd like to preserve, to archive. So, fundamentally, I think of this as an archiving project. I am a historian, so I'm used to working with archives. And I guess in my personal life, I like to archive everything I do. And so it's kind of in my nature, I think, to want to archive my songs, the songs that I've worked on, the songs that I'm passionate about, the songs that I will often play if I'm playing in a gig or an open mic session or whatever. I think there are several benefits that one can gain as a musician from doing this, and I've spoken about this before. One thing is that by recording yourself, you get to listen to yourself, you get to criticize yourself, and maybe work on your imperfections. Um, Also, I think that when it's one thing to record songs for yourself, and I do that a lot as a practicing musician. I'll often, make a video of myself playing a song, singing a song, go back and just see how I did and what could be adjusted or what worked well. And it also keeps a record of the song I played, how I played it, how I sang it, so I can go back later and review and see, oh, that's how I tackled that particular song. So I think personally, it's a good thing. It's very helpful for any musician to record yourself playing songs, especially if you want them to become more of a permanent part of your song repertoire. Also, if you're recording songs and presenting them to the public in a format such as YouTube, it really forces yourself to learn the song at least well enough so that you can play it smoothly. I've said before, the songs that I post on YouTube, I'm not looking for perfection. I just don't have enough time in my day to work a song to perfection or to record it until I get it down perfect. So there's little flaws in there. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think musicians should not be afraid of flaws. I think the key to being a good musician is not that you make mistakes along the way, but that you continue to play smoothly over your mistakes. Every musician makes mistakes, even the most professional of musicians, especially when they're up on stage. I mean, here's another thing I wanted to mention. Okay, we have this culture, it's kind of bifurcated in music. We've got the live music performance culture, right? And we expect high standards from our best musicians, of course. And then we have the recorded music industry. So, most musicians we know through their recorded music. And of course, they go over and over and over again until they get it down perfectly. They'll do take after take until it's perfect. So when you're hearing recorded music, you're hearing a very artificial version of the music. It's not what you're going to hear when they play it live. And I think that's why people still gravitate to live music. People still like to hear their favorite artists playing music live. They'll still listen to a live recording, even if it's not as good as the recorded music. So I think we have this standard of perfection for recorded music, and maybe some musicians like to impose that on themselves, especially if they're professional musicians and they want to present a perfect face to the world. Obviously, I don't have that issue because I'm not a professional musician. I don't really care if people see me make mistakes. I think that's part of the process of being a musician. It's part of the fun of being a musician is to see where are you in terms of your development. Are there difficult runs that you've tried to play that you just didn't quite get right? Maybe you'll get them right another time if you keep working on them. When I work on a song to try to get it down really smoothly, especially if I want to memorize it, I'm memorizing the lyrics, memorizing how to play it on the guitar. It usually takes a couple of weeks of steady practice, maybe playing it 3 times a day for 2 weeks till it gets ingrained in my long-term memory. And then I just have to kind of brush it off and review it a little bit in order to play it again. But you've got to go through that, for me, like a 2-week, maybe you could stretch it out to a month. If you took a song and you play it and sing it steadily for 1 month, every day, maybe 2 or 3 times a day, you're really going to get that song down. And if there are some difficult runs or difficult parts of the song, and you work on those steadily for 2 weeks to a month, you're going to get those down. So there's no magic formula here. It's just work. It's just practice. And when you're a practicing musician, you have to always make a compromise between how perfect do I want to make this particular song or this particular part of the song versus do I want to go off and work on other songs and add those to my repertoire. For me, I'm more of a guy who, my goal is to be a human jukebox. So I'm not going to play any song necessarily perfectly, but my goal in life as a musician is to learn as many songs as I can. So I kind of err on the side of quantity. I want to get more songs under my belt. They don't have to be perfect. I don't have to have them perfectly memorized. I can rely on the chord and lyric sheet if I need to. Maybe there are a few songs that I'm working on consistently that I am trying to memorize, am trying to get down. But for most songs, I'm content with being able to play them smoothly with or without the assistance of a chord and lyric sheet. Tabs, in other words, guitar tabs. So going back to this archiving project, I've learned hundreds of songs over the years. I've recorded dozens of them, maybe. I've been recording myself playing music for umpteen years. Recently, as I've become more serious about performing music in public settings, I've done a lot more of recording myself playing music. So there was just a kind of a jump to decide to put these on YouTube. I'd been resisting it for a while because I guess I kind of bought into the idea that you've got to be really good. You've got to be a really high quality musician to put your stuff out on YouTube. Putting that stuff out into the world where you're vying for attention with all the best musicians in the world, it's kind of a chaotic venture, right? Most of us aren't at that level, and we'd probably shy away from being that public with our musical repertoire. But one thing that I decided was I think I'm good enough that I feel confident showing my work to the public. They'll know that I'm not seeking perfection. I'm not a professional. There are a lot of amateur artists out there who put their stuff out on YouTube for different reasons. So you have to kind of overcome the idea that only the top echelon of musicians should be making their work public like this. That's one thing. And then you have to decide, well, ultimately I'm doing this for myself and for my own personal growth. I'm not here to teach people how to play music or how to sing songs. If somebody watches my video and gets something out of it, like, oh, that's how you play that song. That's cool. That's a nice idea. Maybe I'll try that. That's wonderful. And please, put a comment on my video to say that it helped you. That would be nice to know. But it's certainly not what I'm aiming to do. There are plenty of professional guitar teachers out there in YouTube world who do a wonderful job of instructing people how to play different songs. Maybe that's a topic that I'll cover in another video. I love those guys. They're all great, wonderful. It's so fantastic that they're putting their videos out there for the world to learn. I mean, it's such a different world than it was when I was a child growing up in the 1970s and the 1980s. We had no access to this kind of material, this kind of educational environment. We had to learn the hard way through charts, sheets, through music teachers. And I do, maybe I'll make other videos to talk about some aspects of learning how to play music, but I do think it's really important to have real teachers, and I cherish all the music teachers that I've had, in the past growing up. But ultimately, you do have to kind of step out and decide and go on your own and pursue the music on your own. You can't be learning from a teacher forever. The teachers are good when you're in the nest and you're sort of learning how to flap your wings and you're looking down and like, how am I going to fly out of this nest and survive? And they get you out of the nest and then you're flying around. But then it's up to you to carve out your own environment. So going back to the archiving, I think it's good for any practicing musician to build up a record of your development as a musician, your tastes, your style, what you like, you know, what you're good at, what you need to develop. And I think doing a public archive is kind of a wonderful way of doing that. I feel like YouTube has given us this unique opportunity to build up a public archive of our efforts. Um, I actually enjoy looking at other practicing musicians on YouTube who have built up a record of their practice and just see how they've developed over the years. I kind of, I kind of regret that I didn't start doing this earlier. But now that I'm doing it, I feel like it has kind of a momentum of its own. I feel this, it's become like a habit. I have this desire every day to add to my record. But there's another thing that I'll end, because I don't want this to be too long. But there's one other thing is that there's kind of a ticking clock. For me, I'm in my mid 50s, so no spring chicken, right? And I think that as you advance in age, you start encountering health problems. Personally, I had a major health crisis last year, and that was a real eye-opener for me. So there's health issues, and then you have to think about how long can I keep up this stamina as a musician? It takes a lot to play music. I think we take it for granted because we see all these great musicians and they make it seem effortless to sing and to play, but it is a hard practice. It's a tough skill to develop and to maintain. And I think as you get older, things start to go. Your fingers might start to get arthritis, God forbid, or your voice might start to go. I would like to at least preserve myself when I still feel like I'm in my prime as a musician as I advance in age. So I think for me, I'm speaking, there's a kind of a timing factor as well. And also going back to what I said earlier, I don't want to forget what I've learned because it's so easy for me. I may go through hundreds of songs in a year, learning them, learning how to play them smoothly. And then I'm on to the next songs and on to the next songs. And I don't want to forget what I achieved and how did I play that song? How did I sing that song? Oh, that's right. I knew that song at one point. I forgot that I actually was playing that song. So, as you advance in age, I don't want to stereotype or denigrate those of us who are advancing in age, but your memory does sometimes play tricks on you, and you sometimes forget what you've been up to, and that's why I like keeping a record of things. I keep a record of the books that I read in a given year, at least those that are outside of my teaching, because I have those archived in syllabi and articles that I write and so on. But personal reading, I like to keep a record of my personal reading. And so in that vein, I think it's good to keep a video archive of the songs that I learn and love to play. So that's all I'm going to say for today. I hope this video has been maybe useful to you if you're also a practicing musician and you're thinking of going on the similar journey of archiving your own work as a musician. So, see you next time.